Football then and now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us.
A warm welcome. This is episode 22 of Football Then and Now. We do current football and also nostalgic elements of the game. And waiting in the wings is my co-host and cousin, Chris Hume. How are we, Chris? It's been a couple of weeks, no episode with me and you. So yeah, good to be back. Good to be back, mate.
Yeah, we left it on a really good episode, didn't we? Talking about, our sort of kits that remind us of our heyday, and not necessarily the looks, but just certain players that sort of wore those kits. As obviously looks work with it as well. But there's a few things that have obviously happened since our last episode. The Euros finished, didn't it? England lost, but it's one of them. Gareth Southgate's left, so we've got all sorts of different rumours going around who's going to take his job next. It's interesting. I'd like, before we even go into this show, what would is there a manager out there that you would go for? For myself, Lee Carsley fits the whole criteria for me. If you're naturally progressing, someone that knows the whole layout of England, but I'd like to know what you think on that.
A lot of the pundits are going for Eddie Howe. David Seaman's been on TalkSport just talking about fishing this tournament or something, but they got him on. Hawksby and Jacobs got him on to obviously the England manager who he thinks. But again, I've been surprised Eddie Howe away from Newcastle. I think it's going to have to be a sizable amount of money, isn't it? In terms of contract. How long's his contract got left up there? What they would pay him. Do you know what, Chris? I know this is a long shot, and I know he's out the game for the foreseeable. I'd go for, out of everybody, Jurgen Klopp, but I just don't think he's going to come back, anytime soon. That's a bit of a, left field one, of course. Will they go with an Englishman? But like you're saying about Lee Carsley and the job he's done with the under-21s there, Southgate did very well, didn't he, with the under-21s prior to taking the big job, so that can work. I mean, I also heard about the Nations League. Lee Carsley could be interim in September, couldn't he, for them games? So it could be like his vetting process almost, couldn't it? That could be, depending on how they do, that may help his case. You're saying about Lee Carsley there. So it's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, we need a progressive manager, don't we? I think, as much as Southgate done wonderful and his stats back it up, to his win to loss ratio, and what rounds he's got England into, the semis, the finals. He's done better than a lot of previous managers, and don't forget a lot of highly fought after sort of managers who've been in that job before him. But I think England need to be need a bit more attacking minded manager. Someone who's just going to roll the dice instead of the whole progressing from defence. And, slowly moving on up front. We've got too many good players.
What about Graham Potter, Chris? Because obviously you're saying about the brand of football there. He would bring attacking football. You could make a case for Potter. But you look at the betting odds. He's up there, isn't he? He's been without a job. He's still getting paid by Chelsea as well. I heard about this last week.
No, I didn't know that.
He's still getting money. So he could probably sit on the beach somewhere for quite a while. But I'm sure if he was in favour, and he is one of the favourites, surely he wouldn't turn it down either.
I think, for certain, if you say about Eddie Howe and Graham Potter, I think you've got to look at, if you're going to take the England job at their age, because they're still young managers, that's the job pretty much for life in a way, because it's 8 years, give or take, isn't it, like Southgate had? But he's still a good age to move back into club football. But if you're their age now and say they're going to, if they were to take the job and they can do 8-9 years, it sort of takes them away from the club sort of aspect. So I think if these sort of managers are going to take the England job, it's a life job. Because I don't think you're getting back into club football pretty much if you do an international job, unless you do terribly and you're sacked very quickly, then yeah. But I feel like these decisions for managers have to be right. It's either I want to be a manager for a club or I want to be a manager for international football. This is where I think Lee Carsley fits the bill. You look at Spain's manager. I'm not going to pronounce his name, but he came through the ranks, like Southgate did as well. I think Lee Carsley fits the bill. Like I said, he knows the in and outs. He knows who's coming through. Don't forget, he's beaten Spain in the under-23s Euros himself. if you watch the under-21s play, they're a lot attacking minded, and I just think obviously he just knows everything at that point, and I think he'd be more inclined to pick players that are actually playing well and not just picking players for namesake, where you see the managers fall into. But, this is a conversation for another day, obviously.
Absolutely. Our guest is waiting in the wings, but I want to do your special segment, which we've integrated in more recent episodes. Obviously, today's date, it is July 26th. I know when people listen to this in audio form, they could be listening to it days, weeks later. But yeah, tying it in with today's date as we're recording. And yeah, on this day with Chris Hume, and I'm going to pump in the title in here, and you pulled this one up, mate, the anniversary for Brad Friedel there.
There was a couple of signings that happened on this day, but I feel like, with Brad Friedel, I think, and I'd say this over Tim Howard, and I love Tim Howard when he was at Everton, and I think he was a fantastic, ambassador for American football when he was over here. But I think Brad Friedel is the best American export that we've had in the Premier League. You just got to look at the clubs he's played for. Obviously there's Aston Villa, there's Blackburn, where he made his name before he moved on, Liverpool, Tottenham. And don't forget, when he was playing at Tottenham, he was playing at, what was he? I think it was about 36, wasn't he? 37. And he carried on for quite a fair bit of time. But, you've got to look at his appearance ratio for all these clubs. And I think it totaled up to about 450, something like that, 450 appearances.
Yeah.
And he kept going, and he was still, like I said, he was still playing at a higher sort of divisions in his latter stages. But he was extremely sort of comfortable, and I think you had him, in a goal for yourself. So you got the defence in front of you. You weren't worried. I think you're in the safe pair of hands would be the phrase for Brad Friedel. I know there's a pun there because he's a keeper, but I think he was always consistent. He did save a few penalties as well in his day, and here's a good trivia for Stuart. He's one of 4 goalkeepers to score in the Premier League. Can you name the others?
I can do Schmeichel. I can do Tim Howard because he scored against Bolton when the wind got behind the ball. The 4th name would elude me. So forgive me, viewers, listeners, Chris, because I can't think of the 4th person as you're going to tell me right now. And you're like, yeah, I knew that.
It was Paul Robinson, wasn't it? And
right, okay.
And don't forget, Begovic has scored when he was at Stoke.
So quite a few keepers in the higher echelon on the Premier League there with goals.
But it's a very small league, isn't it?
Brad Friedel, I can't remember who had him in goal in fantasy years ago, but when he was at Blackburn, 2 penalty saves and a clean sheet, and they had him as captain on their team. It was in one of our private leagues. They ended up with like 30-odd points, 40 points just for Brad Friedel. And they had him as captain, weirdly. Obviously, I always remember that. But like you say, number of appearances he made, quite incredible.
Yeah, and like I said, he went on and on and on, didn't he? Obviously, I know he's retired now and he's back in America. I don't think Americans, for their sort of the international side, appreciated Brad Friedel enough. Where obviously I know Tim Howard, Casey Keller, who was over here. I can't remember his name now. The goalkeeper that was at Reading, and then he had a brief spell at us. He was an American goalkeeper. But I think if you look at all those sort of goalkeepers that have come over here, I think Brad Friedel.
Hanneman.
That's it, Hanneman.
Hanneman at Reading.
But I think Brad Friedel wasn't appreciated enough, I think, by Americans.
No, quite.
I don't think, obviously, Tim Howard got the nod at international stages, and by right, because he was a very, very good goalkeeper. But I think Brad Friedel got overlooked in that sense, because I think, like I said, he was the best goalkeeping export that came over from America.
Fantastic. Obviously, this has become a segment. Great. We'll carry on with this because I love it. And Kyle Taylor is waiting in the wings. Special guest friend of mine of many years now. Hello, Kyle. How are you doing, mate? We're going to talk about your role. But yeah, great to have you on. And I know how busy you are. Kyle, this is Chris. Kyle.
Chris.
Hi, mate. How you doing, mate?
Thanks for having me on.
So yeah, you're at Liverpool, Academy sports scientist and sports performance consultant for Connahs, Quay, Nomads. So people outside of Wales maybe who don't know who Connahs, Quay are, they're obviously in the League of Wales, aren't they? But yeah, busy. I knew you from a young age, obviously, just fantastic what you've done and what you've been able to do in your professional life. And I know how hard you've worked in university to get to this point. So props to you, mate. And yeah, thank you for coming on the show, man.
No, much appreciated, and thanks for having me on.
What does the role entail? Now, we see things on television when we see sports science and stuff like that, but your day-to-day role within Liverpool, what's a typical day for you? What are you getting up to with the players, those young academy players?
So, yeah, like you say, my role at the club's kind of a dual role. So day to day, I'll be working with the under-18s as an academy sports scientist. So going through, daily weigh-ins, making sure we're keeping on top of how lads are kind of looking day to day, assisting with the kind of the nutrition side of things, liaising with the nutritionist to make sure like the breakfast and stuff that we've got on is what we need for that training day. And then kind of moving on there, depending on what kind of day it is, whether it's a +2, so 2 days after the game, or, in that sense, we're on the back end of the game. We do a lot of screening and monitoring to, make sure that lads are where they need to be to go back into that training week and have recovered from the game. So that's a big kind of part of my role, I guess, is monitoring and screening. So like you see, a lot of the lads wear them little vests with the the little devices in the back. So one of my main roles is making sure that's up to date, and we use that day-to-day basis when the lads are on pitch to see how fast they run, how far they run, and then over time we can monitor that and make sure that they're not doing too much, they're not doing too little, and phase that in when we're leading up to a game as well. And then obviously the gym side of things. So it's a lot more common nowadays with rehabilitation, gym sessions. So I spend a lot of the time in the gym whilst the lads are out on pitch, because there's two of us at Liverpool, so one of us will take more of the pitch-based stuff. I've found kind of my role at the minute is taking more of the gym-based stuff and helping the back end of some of the rehab players get back to the pitch, but also in the gym, some of the players that are already fit, in terms of trying to get them more stronger, more powerful, and making them being able to move better within the gym as well.
Chris?
I think of sports science, and this is more of a joke side now, is Mike Bassett, England manager. We need to get him over to the sports science bit. Not to knock on your job there, Kai. What made you sort of your younger years? Obviously, you're a big football fan. Obviously, everyone wants to be a footballer, don't they? When they're growing up, everyone looks at obviously we'll look back at our era, the Ronaldos and such players. What made you decide that sports science is where you wanted to head? Is a professional job?
Well, like you say, all of us aspire to initially be able to play football at the professional level. And given I weren't that great at football, very quickly found that wasn't going to be the route for me. Like Stu says, I went to uni, John Moores, to study sport and exercise science initially, with kind of the aim of wanting to be a PE teacher. So that was my kind of primary focus, was I'm going to go do a sports science degree because it's something I'm kind of interested with sport, and kind of how the body moves, how the body works. But at that point in time, I didn't have a clue what a sports scientist or a fitness coach was until I stumbled across an opportunity to go into Wigan Warriors Rugby Club. Like Stu knows, a lot of the time when you're getting into this profession, you're doing it off your own back and going in for free and helping out. So I used to spend one night a week at Wigan, initially with the first team, doing a bit of analysis, but then following on from that, when I saw all these lads in the gym lifting big weights, I thought, fair enough, that looks a bit more of kind of my avenue. So, I approached the strength and conditioning coaches there, kind of navigated my way into the academy stuff, and from that I kind of felt like that was my route into sport, was being able to be close to the players and being in and around that industry and that profession, but have a hand in on trying to get the players better and fitter and faster and stronger, and kind of an impact on the team without being able to actually play the sport myself.
You say by your standards playing football, it was a hell of a lot better than me, mate. I was just thinking, you could play, couldn't you? It did make me laugh when you said, just
it's like you say, everything's in perspective, isn't it? You think you're good at one point, and then you get to certain levels. But yeah, no. So literally, as Stu knows, I probably played football all the way till I was like 17, 18, got to uni, and then, you know, he laughs about it now. I kind of stopped all exercise whatsoever, ballooned up. Our good friend liked to put my face in a bowling ball at one point, but
Yeah,
less said about that, the better. But
I remember it well.
but from that, I kind of had a kick up the arse that I needed, and found my passion in sports science, and down the line that led me from doing my undergrad, working at Wigan Rugby, working at Tranmere, and then eventually put me on the path where I am now. So
there's some photos there of you for Tranmere. I know you were with them for a while. Just that, how was Tranmere for you at the time?
Incredible. So like when I first went in, it was off the back of my two friends at the time who were there doing a bit of the academy work. Two of my really close pals at uni, and they didn't feel like that profession was for them. So they knew that I was doing a similar thing with Wigan at the time and asked for me to come in and just give them a hand one day a week. So I was like, I love football. Never really heard of Tranmere before, in all honesty, but thought, it's another foot in the door and it's another bit of experience I can get. Long and behold, them two left, and I wanted a bit more of a hands-on role. I think being involved in football for so long, I felt like football was probably a bit more suited to me and what I feel like I could provide at that time. So I ended up, again, becoming an intern at Tranmere and then kind of leaving Wigan. And then that experience led me to kind of lead the programme with the academy whilst assisting with the first team. And like you say there, Stu, it wasn't easy. I was going in 3-4 times a week to begin with, not completely unpaid, making my own way from Wallasey in between lectures and stuff. Mm-hmm. But the experience that I gained from it and the connections I've made are valuable. And, you meet some really good people in football. And a lot of the time, the good people you meet and the impression you leave on them put you in good stead down the line. So, yeah.
I know how many early starts you've had as well. Obviously, when you were doing the PT and as well. Chris, this lad, if anyone deserves to be where they are now, all the work he's done, up at silly o'clock in the morning, weren't you? You've got to have the drive. I think young lads and girls, let's not take girls out of the mix here, who want to do it. You lived and breathed it, didn't you? And you're so down to earth as well with it, but you've worked so hard. I know how much your family are proud of you. I'm proud of you, certainly.
Yeah, no, and I think like a big thing for me was I was one of the first out of my family to get to uni initially anyway. So like having to juggle my way through university whilst trying to, again, I'd come back every weekend and work with yourself there, Stu, and I'd do Monday to Friday at university in Wigan or Tranmere, and then I'd get a train home first thing Friday morning at like 4 or 5 o'clock. I'd work all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and then get the train Sunday night to come up, and then do that again, rinse and repeat for a whole year and a half. To be honest, but like you say, I think I'm a firm believer in reaping the rewards down the line, and still at this point now, like I still have that same work ethic, and I think, in fairness, it's down to the grounding that I got with you guys, Stuart, in that kitchen. It's
that work ethic side of it.
Coming in at 15, wet behind the ears, washing dishes, to then being put on and helping yourselves within the kitchen for a numerous amount of years. It working 12, 14-hour days every day throughout the summers, like, it gives you a good grounding and good work ethic. And I think, especially in sports science and an injury industry, there's a lot of people trying to get the jobs, and there's not that many jobs going around.
No,
you need something that keeps you stood out. And I think for me, like, I firmly believe hard work's the foundation of everything else that I've been able to build upon. But that's kind of my primary pillar.
Chris,
going through sort of obviously the teams and obviously rugby sort of teams that you've done sports science with, is there anything different between what you would do with a rugby team than you would do with a football squad?
Yeah, like especially the ages that you work with, it's 14, 15, 16. The primary aim of that squad isn't to win, it's to develop. And there's a big emphasis on trying to, develop players into something, not just as players, but as people. So especially at Swindon, where we had a big philosophy on developing better people. Better people make better players. You know, you as I said to you then, Stu, like the grounding I got through coming through that kitchen is kind of a similar grounding to what you give some of the players as they come through. Like simple things, like folding your kit when you're done. You know, they're just simple things that some people like coming through might not know. So you do that. But in terms of specifically coaching, like you say there, Chris, there's massive changes going from Wigan, where it's a very physical contact sport. They need the win. It's a first team environment. Everything's about performance and results. You know, and again, they're big 110, 120 kilo rugby players that smash into each other on the weekend. You know, they're big boys. They lift big weights. Whereas at football, especially like if you go to an academy at Tranmere, for example, you know, 16-year-old lads that have just finished school, it's their first kind of experience of a full-time football environment. So as much as they are classed as full-time footballers, they're still 16, 15 years of age, and you're trying to coach them in how to move better. You're teaching them how to do the gym properly, how to train properly, how to recover properly, how to eat properly. So there's a lot of, I'd say there's a lot more development and learning process to coaching younger athletes. Whereas, especially at first team, you know, emphasis is on performance, winning, recovery, winning, performance. You know, it's a vicious cycle at a first team level. And not to say one approach is, you know, miles better. I think there's a lot of practitioners, especially that are really well suited to academy strength and conditioning or sports science. And again, there's other bombardment of people that are really well suited to first team. And I think it's good to get an experience of both, so you can kind of mix and take the better bits from both and blend it into your practice. And I feel like that's something that I really enjoy doing. You know, working and assisting Tranmere and being around the playoff semi-final, and then going to Swindon, the exact same thing, being within the academy, but also having a little bit of a hand with the first team. And then, like you say, Stu, touching on some of the stuff now with Connahs Quay, you know, still working in an academy football day today, but, you know, still getting in and around that first team. So hopefully, Chris, that's answered your question. I've babbled on a bit there, but yeah.
How did Connahs Quay come about, mate? Obviously, you've been with Liverpool for quite a while now. So how did that formulate? How did that become a thing?
So again, touching on what I said before, you meet some really good people in football, and the impression that you leave on them last. And initially, when I got to Tranmere, there was a coach there called Neil Gibson, who fantastic coach and an amazing manager. So at the time, he was, you know, former Tranmere player, former player for other clubs, and he was working at Tranmere Rovers alongside myself and a few others. That's how I initially got to meet him. And then our paths took different directions. I went to Swindon, you know, moved away from the local area, but still kept in touch. Still asked him how he was getting on. You know, he was doing really good things with Prestatyn and Flint at the time. And then he got the Connahs Quay job. So, long story short, got to November 2022 when I got the Liverpool role, and just had a chat with him, had a little catch up saying, "Oh, I'm on my way back," like kind of jokingly, "If you need anything, just give me a shout." From that conversation, I was in. You know, he wanted me to come in. He respected the work that I'd put in previously. And then, you know, we kind of created a philosophy and a culture at the club on initial conception when we came in, you know, and been so successful with what we've been able to achieve since, you know, finishing second in the league 2 years in a row, getting Europe 2 years in a row. You know, last year, like Stu just put up there, winning the Welsh Cup against the behemoths that are TNS, that are a full-time outfit with, you know, big budgets. But when you create a culture and hard work, and I think we can strongly say that our team was probably one of the fittest in the league last year. You know, it's great to see that the stuff that we do within that environment kind of paid its due, if that makes sense.
No, perfect. I didn't know you get the time to do all this, mate. And then have your social side. I know you've been away recently in the off season, so you've had your R&R and you're back to it again. But yeah, I've always said this. You've always kept yourself busy, and I don't know how you spin so many plates, but it's just your desire, isn't it? Your heart to
and it's
excel in what you do. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's like you say. Like I think, like you say, like because I've always been so busy previously, whether it was I was being at school and working in the kitchen or whatever, I like to occupy myself and make sure I'm progressing. You know, like I said, I've got my first kind of exposure to leading when I was at Marine, and you know, some of the stuff that we did there, again, amazing. I think that experience put me in good stead to get the Swindon role. But it's like you say, yeah, and it can be quite daunting at times, but I feel like as long as you schedule stuff out and you prioritise certain things and your schedule's in place, you're more than capable of balancing multiple things at the same time. I think, you know, a lot of people who may be listening to this that maybe sports scientists or whatever, you know, a lot of people say they don't have time to do things, but I think it's all a matter of priority. You know, you can make time, you know, but yeah, it's like you say, especially now, back with the dual role at Liverpool, being an academy sports scientist and doing my PhD alongside doing the Connahs Quay stuff. You know, you've got to then try and make time to have a life at the same time, and it's tough, but yeah, you find a way.
How far into the PhD are you, Kyle, now? Because I remember you saying you were starting it and they were putting you through it. They sorted that out, didn't they?
Yeah. So as part of my role at Liverpool, alongside that, it's a dual role. So I'm an academy sports scientist with the under-18s and, you know, assist with the rest of the academy. But alongside that, I'm doing my PhD in sports science and rehab. So, you know, trying to find ways in which that there's a translation that fits between the club and the university to create a project that is, one, novel and new and going to benefit certain people, but two, that helps the club as well. So, yeah, I'm 2 years in now. I've got another 2 years left. So, you know, fingers crossed in 2 years' time we can have another catch up and go through the results of that. But no, it's an interesting process for sure.
And hopefully there'll be an Everton crest on that jacket. I had to put it in. I had to get it in there. Sorry.
I suppose we've got to be careful here, haven't we?
No. There's no derogatory here.
No. Quite. Absolutely. Kyle, what tips and advice do you give people, I think from like university level, wanting to go in and study it, you know, do the initial degree? What would be your advice? You know, what tips have you got for youngsters who want to get into it?
I'd say a lot of the time you have to kind of check your ego at the door for a lot of things. Like a lot of opportunities can come your way, but if you feel like you deserve something better, a lot of the time you're not ready for that opportunity. And, you know, like one example for me is I got an opportunity to go work at Marine whilst I was at Tranmere. You know, the pay was not great, but the opportunity for me was I got to work with first team players, being around competitive football, learn what a semi-professional structure's like in terms of managing it that side. But from the back of that, I then get a move to Swindon, which was a full-time head of department role. So like, I think a lot of the time you've got to check your ego and take opportunities that come your way, no matter how little you think they may be. Similar to the Tranmere role, I was working 3-4 days a week for free. But I met some amazing people. I learned off some amazing practitioners, and then down the line, like you say, you don't know where that can come to, and you know, eventually down the line, I'm now working with a great manager in the Welsh Prem. So,
Chris,
I think that obviously what you're saying as well, there, Kyle, is it's making connections, isn't it? It's not all. You know, I mean, obviously a bit of money's nice, but I think if it's something you desire to do, I think what you're giving off to people if they listen to this is, you know, if something you're really into, you have to put your heart and effort into it. And I think, you know, I mean, fantastic sort of inspiration there. And I think, you know, I mean, you could easily like stand up there and speak to these sort of kids and really give them that inspiration about hard work. But besides that, I was going to ask, obviously, without giving names, is there players when you see come through, obviously through school to the academy, and do they stick out? And you like, is it a wow moment? I mean, if you see, not say stars, but potential players that you feel it in your own head that could go all the way.
Yeah, like, I think you see it, like, especially like at all levels. You know what I mean? So everything's in perspective. Obviously, Liverpool being such a massive club, you know, every player that you see there's got quality. Every player you see there's got potential. But like you say, like there's some moments where you think, wow, there's some players, especially when you've come from a background that I've come from, with all due respect to other places like a Swindon or a Tranmere, where, you know, they've not got players that are worth multi-millions of pounds at young ages, but just like you say, you've got players that have got potential, but have also got grounding as well about them. The way that the club operates and works, they try and provide players with a good grounding, like you've probably seen multiple times. The philosophy that they have in pushing players through as well with the previous manager and wanting to push players through. But even at other levels, like I can give one example at the minute of a lad at Connahs Quay who's just signed for Tranmere, 19 years of age, wasn't really starting at the start of last season. He bought into what we wanted to do, and now he's just got to move to Tranmere in a 2-year deal. You look at him and he scores that amazing goal at the end of last season in the Welsh Cup that everyone's probably seen, Di Canio-esque, won us the cup, and off the back of it, you think, wow, what a goal and what a great talent he is. But again, you reap what you sow, and he's just got to move to Tranmere, and now he's a professional footballer at 19. So
it's a mental thing, isn't it, with these young lads, as much as it is what they can do physically, though, isn't it? We hear about it all the time that you got to be mentally right, otherwise. We've seen players drop out the game, haven't we? Dele Alli is a big one, isn't he? All the stuff that's gone on with him. We just expect them to get on the pitch and do it as fans, physically. But if they're not right mentally, Kyle, it's half the battle, isn't it? I'm sure.
Yeah, and even I know Roy Keane likes to pop off at the minute and go, it's your job. But a lot of the time there's a lot of pressure riding on these young lads to make it, and there's a lot of the environment's a very strange environment to be in at them young ages. You compete, even though it's a development area, you're competing for certain spots to progress your career. A lot of the time it might not always be at that specific club, but it might be at another club. But I think having the right people in place at them clubs to look after the individuals from a psychological side, from a fitness side, from a technical side. You've got a lot of player care people that work in football that do an amazing job of touching base with certain players, making sure everything's going all right, everything's good at home with family. There's a lot more support in football now than there was 10, 15 years ago, and I think it's needed.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, obviously, me and Stuart did a MMA one, Big Fight Weekly, and I always banged on to Stuart about there not being enough support after the fact or with mental health, especially in MMA. There's not a lot of, once they've retired or, they're winding down, because obviously the age does catch up with you. There's not enough support keeping these sort of, say, fighters, going from a professional fighter, and all they can think about is train and then fighting, and then naturally sort of coming just to be a normal person per se. Obviously a lot of them can go do commentary and do their own podcasts and what have you. But I don't think there's a support sometimes where some just can't handle the fact that they can't do it anymore, and they do go off the rails. Would you say, obviously, with that, football is better equipped for players that are coming out of the sport?
Yeah, I think especially now with younger ages, you've got the likes of Crystal Palace that have put like a post-academy programme scheme in. I think Trent Alexander-Arnold's just recently done one with the Premier League of the post-academy release. You've got something to go into and kind of still, keep ticking. I think especially with football being such a monotonous routine, like you get told where to be at what time every day, especially for like older people that have been in it a long time, 10, 20 years of being told where to be and what to do every day, to then coming out of that and having to do your own thing. I think it's quite a big transition, but I think it's got to a point now, especially at the younger ages of the game, you've got great initiatives that kind of help that process.
Would you like to go into any other sports with what you've got? Do any other sports appeal to you with this, where you'd like to go in? Have you ever thought about
that? Yeah, I think not just sports by itself. I think a lot of different. I think for me, it's all about the purpose and the project. Like, Connahs Quay, when we first went in there, it was cultivating a sports science department because it didn't really have anything prior. Creating a culture, building into the project at that first team level to then go on and achieve stuff that you want to achieve. In football, again, I don't know. Maybe I'd like to at some point head up a first team, down the line at some point. Mm-hmm. Obviously, when everything's said and done and the PhD's finished in that time comes in my career to go and lead a department at a first team, wherever that may be. I've also, had thoughts about MMA, combat sports. A lot of the practitioners at John Moores University are really well equipped in working with the likes of Dennis McCann, Paddy Pimlett, Meatball Molly McCann, a lot of good, well-cultured fighters. So that's always interested me. But again, it's a journey, isn't it? So whatever kind of comes your way or whether interests you at that said time, then I think it kind of speaks for you. So
I'm just keeping an eye on time here. Now, obviously, with this show, we intermingle nostalgic elements of football. Now, I know you grew up watching football, you played it. Who were some of your favourite players growing up, Kyle? And matches and things like that stand out to you? And
I was having this conversation the other day. Having just watched the Euros with Ronaldo and coming off, and even little things like Ronaldo's done his iconic few steps back, shrug of the shoulders, big deep breath, and then Bruno just runs in and takes his free kick. Like that throws me back to 2007, 2008. A few steps back, R7, tape around the socks, few steps up, especially that Arsenal free kick, the one against Portsmouth. Like when I was growing up, like Ronaldo, Tevez, Rooney, it's a shock. You can probably imagine who I support by that. But watching them grow up was impressive.
Any games that stand out? I know that there could be a myriad of games, there could be thousands of games, but maybe if you just pick one that sticks out for you, that has just so many memories.
A good one would have been 8-2 against Arsenal when we beat Arsenal 8-2. That was impressive. Champions League final when we won in Moscow. I remember sitting in front of the telly, nearly crying my eyes out when it got to penalties. I'm still thankful Terry slipped till this day. But and then the other final against Barcelona, when we lost, I remember sat there in tears thinking, "Oh, we should have won." And I was born the year of the treble, so I never got to see it, and probably show my age a little bit there. But still look back on that now and watch it from time to time just to get a feel for it.
Good times.
Love to win a trophy. I mean, 95, I think, was the last, sort of feeling of one. It's just more misery and fighting relegation for us.
To be fair, you might win the championship in 2 seasons' time at your new stadium. So,
cheers, Kyle. we hope not. We're hoping we've come out after three years of just terrible. Really, it's been terrible. It
looks amazing though, doesn't it?
Oh my God!
Past it in Liverpool.
Have you been down there, living around?
Yeah, I've caught it a few times. Obviously, when you walk along the docks, it's lovely down there, isn't it? And the stadium's just unbelievable. And again, as much as we joke, it's a good thing for the city, isn't it? Like Liverpool's a lovely place.
As a whole, absolutely. I know a lot of Liverpool fans that have been down there to have a look, and they said you don't get a feel for it until you're down on ground level and you're walking up to it. You can watch all these drones going up and bird's eye view shots and stuff, but that's Liverpool fans saying that. They said you are in for a treat when you go there.
And again, it improves the city, doesn't it? As much as there's a rivalry between Everton and Liverpool, I think, from a city perspective, they're one city. You get a real feel for that when you come to Liverpool, and I've been grateful enough to live here since 2017 now, and it's like a second home to me. So, seeing developments and stuff like that. Again, hopefully, at some point in my career, I'm leading a first team, and I'm able to actually be in the stadium on a match day. So, yeah, it's impressive.
Well done, mate. Well done.
Yeah, I've obviously only just met you, and inspirational. I think me and you, as Stuart said, you spin all these plates, and you're doing all these sort of roles. And I think people should listen to you and really push on and follow your steps if they're that passionate about it.
Well, I try my best. Again, no one's perfect, are they? There's a lot of kinks in the chain to get me to here, but it's important, like you say. Everyone will probably look at me now and go, "Wow, he's worked hard, he's done this." But safe to forget, I nearly failed the first year of university because I was out drinking and partying the whole time and didn't take it seriously. So, I think as long as you learn from experiences along the way and you take them in stride and use them as a lesson, then
you were aware of it. You gave yourself a boot up the arse. This is where a lot of people go wrong with degrees, don't they? Myself included. myself
Yeah,
included.
and again, like you've gone from a lad who's like been in school and worked, didn't really get much spare time, you know, gone from being at home to living in a city where, you know, all due respect, North Wales is an absolutely lovely place, but it's not like the hustle and bustle of living in a city where, you know, there's so much going on all the time, Monday to Sunday. So, you know, it's tempting, isn't it? But it's like you say there, Stu, you've got to trust the people around you and trust yourself to make a decision that's right for you. And I think, you know, I got to a point where I knew it wasn't going to benefit, and I found a passion that I wanted to pursue. So, you know, from that point, I pushed on, and, you know, hopefully may it continue. So,
Talking about the city never sleeping, a bit like New York, but bloody hell, mate. We went for Carris's and my birthday, stayed at the Dixie Dean there. Obviously, you got Zen, the nightclub on the corner, haven't you? There was a full-on party going on at 6 o'clock on a Sunday. It was ticket only. We were meant to be upstairs having food. It was bouncing music. It was like daylight outside. It was crazy, as you say, just all sorts going on there. It's crazy.
No, it's incredible. Like you say, like it could be a Wednesday, it could be a Thursday, it could be a Sunday. Like there's always something going on. And again, just like in work, like, you know, there's going to be distractions, but sometimes you need to just hone in and know what's best for you and make the right decision. It's not always going to be the right decision, but as long as you've got a viewpoint on where you think the right destination or the right decision is going to take you, then, you know, hopefully you make the right one.
Just before we go, I know time constraints and stuff like that. What have you got coming up with Liverpool and Connahs Quay? What's on the itinerary? Just pre-season and games and stuff like that. What you've got coming up, maybe?
Yeah, so a few weeks into pre-season now at Liverpool, so, you know, fresh crop of players in the academy who've just passed through. Really good, just being able to, like you say, the refreshing thing with under-18s level is you're not building to a first game of the season to try and win it. You know, you're building players for the long run to try and progress into hopefully go play in the first team. So, you know, that's been really interesting. Connahs Quay, we just unfortunately lost the second leg of the Europa Conference League qualifiers. So, you know, we won the first leg over in Slovenia, came back over here, played in Namport in Bangor last Thursday, got to the 88th minute, thought it was all said and done, and then they've gone and got the equaliser to take it to extra time, and it just wasn't meant to be on our day. But, you know, we've got a good squad there, good staff, good buy-in, good group of lads that work hard. So we've got our first competitive fixture next Saturday against Buckley Town in the League Cup. So again, hopefully progress as far as we can in that, and then the league gets going the week after. So hopefully it's a good season in terms of Connahs Quay, and then just the PhD, just keep plodding along, just keep moving forwards with that, and hopefully down the line it all comes to fruition.
Proud of you, mate. So proud of you, honestly. You're a credit to your family as well, mate. You really are. And, you know, it's inspiring, as Chris said, you know, it's inspiring for youngsters. They'll take a lot away from this episode. That's why we wanted you to come on.
Yeah.
And sorry, go on. Sorry.
No, I appreciate it. Like I said to you, like, again, like, it's all about giving back as well. You know, I worked with you for like 5, nearly 6 years. You know, from a small little 15-year-old lad who's fresh out of school to obviously now being 25, getting engaged and moving on that way. So, no, I appreciate what you've done as well to get me here.
No problem, mate. No problem. Smoothly done with the proposal, mate, as well. Well done. Well done. You set the scene there, didn't you? So, yeah, congratulations to that as well.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Just before we go, because I'm looking at the time again, just where we can find you in terms of social media, your LinkedIn and things of that nature, just before we let you go, mate.
So LinkedIn, I think if you just put in Kyle Taylor, I should pop up. In X, I think it's at Kyle William _. And then on Instagram, it's KWT Health and Performance _ bit of a mouthful, but if you put KWT in, then I'm pretty sure it'll pop up.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Carl Taylor's been our guest today, Liverpool FC Academy Sports Scientist, and also with Connahs Quay Sports Performance Consultant as well there. Thank you so much for coming on episode 22 of Football Then and Now.
Cheers, mate.
Not a problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely brilliant, Chris. Absolutely brilliant having Kyle on there, and great insight. And it just gives these youngsters an idea, doesn't it, if they want to go into it. And as we alluded to earlier, just the amount of hours he put in. When he was doing his degree, his initial degree, I've seen him work so hard, and I'd be like, "What time are you up?" He'd be up at 5:05, and he'd be on his laptop, and just devoted to it, and professionalism ultimately, isn't it? And he's worked damn hard, and he deserves everything.
I think obviously not just for youngsters, I think for all ages, isn't it? You know what I mean? Just have that inspiration of, oh, I can't do it today, or I can't do this because I'm doing that, when realistically you can do it if you sit down and work it out and don't overcomplicate it. And I think that's what the biggest take I took from it. It's like, if you really desire to do what he does or do any other sort of profession, you have to sort of jump through the hoops. You have to sort of make sacrifices, and you will reap the rewards once you get there. Nothing's an easy walk. You have to go through the fire, don't you? But you've got to take inspiration from that, and you can see how comfortable he is, and how he's still enjoying himself, and I think that's a massive thing as well. As long as you're still enjoying yourself, he's got massive ceiling to get to, isn't he?
Absolutely. Like you said, there's not that many jobs out there, when you look at the amount of roles with the club. So, yeah, it's a privilege for him, and just testament, again, I keep saying about how hard he's worked, but, that's the embodiment of why he's where he is now at the moment, and, where he's looking to go in the future.
Well, he said MMA,
Yeah, I thought your ears would prick up when he said that.
And I thought, well, there is an absolute abundance of gyms in this country now, more so than there's ever been, since I've followed MMA. So, if he wanted to transition to that, I think that there would be a lot of places for him to go to. Liverpool, there is multiple now. You could go where Paddy and Moliere, or you could go where Tom Aspinall was, when Darren Till was. There's loads of places. And I think if that was a transition he wanted, I think they'd take him with open arms.
Absolutely. Chris, I've been hearing a bit of news today, just to close out.
Right.
Ivan Toney won't sign a new deal.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
It does a little bit. It does. But with Ivan Toney, where do you see, where would he be best suited? I heard Arsenal for the longest time. I've heard Liverpool. Teams are being careful. The market isn't that active, is it? I think teams are scared with what we've gone through, what Forest have gone through, the pending charges for City, which we've spoken about at length, especially last season. So I don't want to make it about that. But if we're saying about financials and stuff like that, I think all the teams are being careful. Look at Newcastle with all that money, in the takeover and all that. Even they're being careful, But where is the right fit for Ivan Toney, just to go back to my original question in your mind?
It's a hard one, isn't it? I like Ivan Toney. Do I think he's a Liverpool Arsenal type of striker? I do not think he's. For them, they need someone who's prolific, don't they? They're mounting in title challenges. They need not a Haaland-esque, because again, we've spoke about this. You'll never find anyone like him. But they need someone like him that's going to put the ball in the back of the net consistently. And as much as Ivan Toney works hard, he puts his shift in for Brentford, he does score goals, but I don't think he's that level. And his age is, I don't think, his age, what is he now, in his late 20s now, isn't he?
Is he?
You've got to look at sell-on value as well now. And a lot of teams now, Stuart, that is the major thing. A sell-on value is something they really look at. We are now going back to doing those sort of things. For him, it's like, if he leaves it till next season, it could be a good pickup for, maybe the likes of Chelsea, because Chelsea like to buy everyone, don't they? In Newcastle, he'd be good at Newcastle, I think. I think Ivan Toney at Newcastle would be perfect for them. Him and Isaac would be fantastic together, because Toney does all the, the heavy lifting. And he's also very good at set pieces, which we've seen. I just think, he's got to sort of look at his sort of situation. You know, I mean, you're looking at Calvert-Lewin. They're both in the same boat. They're both sort of humming and hawing over this contract. But there's not a lot of clubs coming in. There's not, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? We know the situation, and I'm sure all the clubs know the situation between the pair of them, but you're not hearing the news. You're not hearing, right, okay, Newcastle's coming in here, or Chelsea have come in here, City have come in here, Liverpool, Arsenal, etc. You're not hearing it. So to me, it's just showing you that the standard is what they want is someone a lot higher, and that's not a knock on Ivan Toney, but it's the levels they want now.
I've harped on and on about it. When he came back from the ban, I think people were expecting to score more goals, but I know he was assisting a lot more. A lot of the goals from January onwards came from Mbeumo and Visser.
Yes,
he was assisting though. I'm not going to knock him. It was like his role changed almost because they knew. Again, what I'm getting at as well, it wouldn't be a hardship for Brentford, I don't think, when you've got players like Visser and Mbeumo who are solidified. They play, they score. They've got the other guy, haven't they, Igor Thiago, but he's pulled up with an injury.
Yeah, I did see.
So it's one of them situations. It'd be interesting to see what happens, and it'd be interesting to see how much they'll get for him. Like you say, 28.
Well, they wanted almost 100 million, didn't they, for them? Wasn't it about 78 million they wanted for him?
Crikey Moses.
I mean, he's a good player. But, you know what I mean?
Nobody's got it. Nobody's got it unless you're, top four, really.
But they're not even willing to spend, a mass amount of money on players either, though, really. You know what I mean? You're looking at... Well, actually, you don't really look anywhere because a lot of them are got PSR appearing over the back, and it has ruined the market. But, this is the way the FA or, in English football want to play, and some of the clubs now aren't doing it. But what you did see before the window opened is a lot of clubs conspiring with each other, not saying it's illegal because it's fair and you can do it, and selling that way. To one another to make it up.
We're doing that now when we were, like you say, we were getting players in their 20s. And, at the time, the fees were, I know inflation and that now it'd be more, but at the time we were spending big bucks. We were hitting 25, 30, 35, 40 million, maybe 50 million virtually for Sigurdsson, although Sigurdsson was one of the better ones out the crop we got. But we're doing the business model style now of like a Brighton, or the way we're doing it, the way we're structuring things, it just shows how mismanaged it's been.
Yeah, terribly.
So long, but they've stolen a march on us, and that's testament to them. You look at how well run they've been, and they've done it pretty much on a shoestring, but they pulled in, Brighton especially have pulled in big money for players, haven't they? It's been incredible to see what they've managed to do. But hopefully, Chris, it's going to be another fantastic season.
Wow. I don't know. Possibly, I've liked the signings. I don't know if we're going towards Everton's conversation. I like what we brought in so far. Lindstrom, I think, was talented at Frankfurt, and we both know that. Napoli, it didn't work, but sometimes players go to these other clubs in a different country and it doesn't work out, and then they come back and it just clicks again, doesn't it? I'm interested. Obviously, I will always be interested. Football's my life, but I'd like us to get some more pace up front. Still, I know Lindstrom's quite fast. But we still need, someone to take over from Onana. I still think we need a defender and a left back as well. Obviously, you've got the wingers, and if Calvert-Lewin goes, I reckon that'll probably go to the end of the window, if anything. And then you need to replace him. But it does excite you coming back. I'm not one for international football, and I like the Premier League. I like club football. That's where the heart is. So I am excited. It is bittersweet for us this season, obviously, with it being Goodison's last. I don't know how I'm going to feel come the day we walk away from that and that's it. Because, we've spent our life there, really, haven't we? You know what I mean? It's been our home away from home. So I'm a bit... I don't know how to approach it yet, because I get you get the sort of sadness like you've lost someone, but I know it's a ground, but we've grown up with Goodison Park, so it's like I say, this season, as much as obviously we want everything to do well, it's still bittersweet for me.
He's trying to bring average age down as well, isn't he? With the players he's trying to get in, you can see what he's trying to do. They're following the model of what other teams have done for years, man. It's just how it's been. Rightly wrongly for the most part. It's just been it's just
scattergun. It's been
it'll be interesting to see what Villa do this year. It'll be interesting to see. I still think City will win the league again, personally.
It all depends on what Arsenal get. You know what I mean? If Arsenal can get...
But look, what's the mental toll for Arteta there? You know, because he's fallen short twice now, hasn't he? But you never know. You never know the right side.
It's a marathon, though, isn't it? It's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
No, of course.
They've come close and close, and I think they were closer than they were the year before, last season. So, you know what I mean? You've got to keep knocking at that door. Pep's not going to be there forever. You know what I mean? If you speak to any City fans now, they're not even sure if he'll be there next season. And, you know what I mean? Again, Kevin De Bruyne has been linked away. I know he said he won't go this season, but you'd imagine probably next season he'll go. So, you know what I mean? There are all transitions that could change for us.
Moussa Diaby, 50 million. You know, they got an Arna, which wasn't a replacement anyway. It was Quay's going, wasn't it? But I was shocked. I was shocked by that because I think Diaby's been brilliant when he's played. But they were probably looking at balancing. They need
it's PSR again, isn't it? And you think they're selling Duran for 50 million to West Ham, aren't they? Which is absolutely mental.
A lot of the Villa fans are saying good luck with that as well. He's got a bit of an attitude. I was reading this. So the Villa fans were saying they were like, good luck with that. I think he's got a bit of an attitude. They go week in, week out, don't they? I just thought he's a young up and coming guy, you know. Like if they're paying that, but you know, Lopetegui obviously sees something, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen enough of him, and I think everyone listening to us would say the same. 50 million for a player that's not. I think he's only had a handful of starts. He's only had a handful of goals. You do feel like the inflation, the British tax, even if not even British now, from any club to sell one player to a club in the same division is just astronomical, and it's crazy to think. You know, some of these players aren't even worth the money. You know what I mean? But again, they sell, as I said, the Army went, and now obviously Duran goes. That's 100 million in the bank for Aston Villa, and that's brilliant for PSR.
Two big losses though, because Douglas Luiz is a total different player to Onana.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, it's. I know they got a couple of Juventus young lads in on
Samuel
that.
Illing,
but again, I just think Douglas Luiz. It's a big. And, you know, they're going to be balancing Champions League as well, aren't they? Which is fantastic what they've managed to do. They've been really, really good. No, and if anyone can get a player playing, it'll be Emery. It might suit an Arna better. You know, we didn't really see much, did we, from an Arna? But our tactics, maybe. Emery could get him playing, couldn't he? And he's got Tielemans with him. You know, they know each other very well, don't they?
Yeah. Listen, I think Villa have brought well. They obviously, a lot, like you say, a lot of clubs now have to spend a bit more to get a certain player if you're buying from the Premier League. But I think Onana, I've got no hate for leaving. I think we knew it was coming. I just think that at this time he's not a Sean Dyche player. Sean Dyche wants them to do more. You've got to look at the likes of James Garner and Idrissa Gueye. I maybe always say Decore, because I'm assuming Decore might get pulled back into the centre this coming season with Ndiaye and Lindstrom, who could play in that area. They work the socks off, and then I think sometimes there are times where Onana he disappears, and obviously that's not what Dyche wants. Dyche wants 110%. He wants full throttle in that midfield. I mean, don't take it away from Onana. Probably one of the best tacklers in that centre of the park I've seen since Patrick Vieira. Not saying he's like Patrick.
No, but you can see
the similarities between them both.
Yeah.
And his passing range, I mean, when he's on form, absolutely brilliant. And again, he's a terror in the corners. When you know the size of him, he can head the ball.
Burnley, when he got his head on the end of it. You know, everyone was saying about that penalty miss against Fulham.
It was terrible.
I just think to myself, right. Majority of our fans are very gracious. Players go, but you do have people, and that's they're allowed to voice what they want to voice. But I think it was a bit unjust.
I agree with you. I think it is unjust, but I think at the same time, it's we're like as fans. I think we hold on too much. But I thought when we bought Onana, obviously, not knowing too much about him, obviously we soon found that out. In the seasons he's played for us, you knew that he was to be bought and sold on for more money. I think that that obviously is the project at Everton at the moment until we get to a point where that doesn't need to happen. But, at the moment in time, he's a luxury player that we can't have at the club.
This is it.
We need players to work, 100% and not to duck away or hide away. Because it's unfortunately he's had to go. But if you're looking at it in hindsight, I'd rather keep Branthwaite than keep Onana and lose Branthwaite.
He's strengthening the midfield anyway. When you look at it, he wants pace, doesn't he? I think Lindstrom on the ball has got more pace than he has when he's not on the ball. So you can kind of see it'll be. So we're always hopeful, aren't we? All the clubs, all the fans are hopeful at the start. Let's just hope we can get. I'm hoping top half. I really am, because we would have got top half without that winless run that we had, and obviously the deduction. We were well on course. We without the deduction to be top half last season.
Yeah, and I think we finished comfortably. As you say, this December, January, February was interesting in regards to results, but it was. I just think it was confidence, and I think there's so much going on at Everton. You can't say the players aren't feeling it. With the unrest with us, the ownership, everything going on. It does take its toll. But as much as I am not a massive Sean Dyche fan, and I just feel like that type of football now is the past. But I give him all the credit in the world because he's had to go through so much crap being our manager and still doing what he's did last season for us. You can't discredit him.
There was 2 spells last season, the October to the December, absolutely brilliant. And then when we really needed to dig deep, and it was looking bad with who we had to play, that April, May, there was 4 months there where we were absolutely, we were on it, bar the Chelsea result, as we've said. All the other results, but I'd say there was 2 spells in that season. There was 4 months there where they were just absolutely, they were brilliant. But then we had the middle bit where it was
interesting.
Tough, and it was like we're getting sucked in here. At one point, I was panicking again, but testament to him and the players in April and May, because we had a tough run in there, and they really dug deep.
I think it for us. It's the players we're signing at the moment. Well, this summer, should we say? I think there's a plan in place. The recent years, as you said, that we spent money on Sigurdsson and stuff like that, even though we completely overpriced for someone like him. Fantastic players. Sigurdsson was. He was not a 40 million or 45 million signing, but stupidly, we just spent money because we had the money, and it wasn't looking at the future, was it? It was just like, it's like a kid at a toy shop, wasn't it? Oh, I like him. How much is he? Well, normally he's about 10 million, but for you, he's 25. Instead of negotiating that, you're like, oh, right, yeah, okay, I'll give you 25 million. Well, now I think Moshiri obviously has disappeared on his boat somewhere, and he's left Dyche in farewell to look at the team. And I think they've got their heads screwed on, and I think they're thinking together. And I think the same mindset of what player they bring in now influences the squad to get it better. So as you say, we can get up the table again.
Absolutely. I've got City. As much as I went for Liverpool when we predicted, and you went for City last season, and you were correct. At one point, I thought Liverpool were looking really, really good when we were doing them predictions, and then it went by, didn't it? But I think it's going to be City, Chris. I just can't see. It's still so strong, that squad. Did you see? I don't know if this was rumour or bollocks. Just a side one. Okay. Barcelona's offer for Dani Olmo. Now I don't know how much of this is rumour, but it was like 40 million structured, and then add-ons. It was to win the league by 2029. They won't win the league. They won't win the league the way that club is at the moment. And there was other bits. Leipzig. We're like, no chance. I don't know how much of this is fact and fiction. I've seen it, but Dani Olmo, off the back of what he's done in the Euros, is worth far more than that. And they're not. Leipzig aren't going for it.
I think he'd be a perfect replacement for Kevin De Bruyne. When Kevin De Bruyne decides to move on, which obviously I alluded to before, I think Dani Olmo would be a fantastic replacement for him. I think that City probably, you'd think of looking at him in that way, maybe. When that comes to it, but Barcelona, in such a disarray within as a club. You know what I mean? That much debt and having to sell this on, and then you're looking at the deals they have made, and obviously they still are signing players somehow. But when you play the game and then you play it wrong and you're just throwing anything out there, this is what happens. You don't see any other club like Real Madrid. You don't see them, money all over the place, do you? I know they've almost had a meltdown themselves many years ago, if you remember rightly, did Real Madrid. And had to get bailed out by the Spanish government, didn't they? It's a sad thing to see Barcelona, from how much I loved them as a kid. You've seen how much they've won, the Messis and all the players that have played there, and how to see they've crumbled down.
Frankie de Jong's still the top earner in La Liga. It's not Mbappe as well. I saw a list of the players. Yeah. Frankie de Jong's on 600,000 a week. Oof. Mbappe's on 500,000. He's not the top earner. I mean, Frankie de Jong, he's good, but it's like it was. They were. I think they should be expecting more. For what they're paying him. I mean, he came off the back of that great Ajax team where a lot of the players moved on. I couldn't believe it, Chris. It's like Mbappe's got to be the top earner now. He's not. He's second. He's on 500 and something, and then Frankie de Jong's on 600,000 a week.
That'd be a good quiz. Good question.
I was like,
quiz question. That
Frankie de Jong's top, and it was their annual salary. So I broke it down. I broke it down into 52 weeks, as to see what they're getting weekly. It's like, holy shit, he's on 600,000 a week.
That's a lot. It's a lot, isn't it? And I think this is why they're in such a shit heap. Because do you really need to be paying Frankie de Jong 600,000 a week? Is his brand big enough that you replicate, you get the money back? Mbappe, you're definitely going to get the money back with all the endorsements, aren't you? They're like Ronaldo's and Messi's. You'd always get the money back. I don't think Frankie de Jong, as much as I think he's a world-class centre midfielder, he's no Xavi and he's no Iniesta. All Busquets in that middle. All players that are worth maybe 600,000 a week.
Awaiting gold.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. I think Madrid, when you look at Vinicius, Rodrigo, the service and what the service Mbappe is going to get in there, it's going to be frightening this next season.
I know.
And, obviously Girona were doing it for so long and just fell by the wayside a little bit. They had a fantastic season, Girona. It was amazing to see a team that, just out of nowhere. It's great when that happens, but just fell short in the end. But we look forward to La Liga, the Bundesliga. Definitely. Can Bayern Munich sort it out? Companies coming in, he's making signings. It's going to be interesting, isn't it, across Europe?
A lot of changes, hasn't there? This summer, there's been a lot of managers that have come and gone, and obviously you've seen a bit more players go. Been going to Bayern, Real Madrid, obviously with probably the biggest signing of the summer, wouldn't you say, with Mbappe? It was obviously, you've had that courtship for years and years, and every bloody window that there would always be something about Mbappe at Real Madrid. Now it's official, and now he's there. It's a frightening prospect. Obviously we're lucky that we don't have to play them because we get absolutely hammered by him. But that's something going to be interesting to see in the Champions League. Definitely,
it's Benzema's replacement, isn't it? They've been great. They've been great. The lads, though, the younger lads that have come through, they've scored. When you look what Bellingham was scoring, especially when he was further up, but Vinicius scored so many goals. Rodrigo, it's going to be frightening with them next season. I think.
Oh yeah,
they're going to take it to the next level again. Chris, before we go, social medias, please, for the listeners and viewers. Before we go, mate.
On X, who have now permanently stopped us from streaming unless we pay for it. Those thieves. It is footy now then, and that's at Twitter. It's Football Now and Then on Instagram, Football Now and Then on Facebook, Football Now and Then on YouTube. Every episode is along there. You can find us on Apple. You can find us Apple. Yeah, Apple, Spotify, all the sort of audio sort of.
No Google anymore. Sorry for interjecting. I know you're going to say Google Podcasts is a thing of the past now, but there's so many avenues, isn't there?
Yeah, I suppose.
So many places, Chris, to get us, isn't it?
We can also find us on Sports Social Network. Apparently, from yesterday's email, Stuart, 500 partners now.
I'm gonna have to get a new planner. You have to get a new banner, Chris.
Yeah.
That's dated now. So we're up to 500 partners with Sports Social Podcast Network. Amazing work that they've been doing, and to go and find some other podcasts on there. I mean, there's Formula One. There's all sorts, isn't there, Chris? Not just football on there.
But you know what? It's a good array of sports. You know what I mean? As you say, there's Formula One, there's cricket, there's ladies football, MMA, boxing. There's all sorts of stuff on there. And there's tons of football for their own sort of teams they support. There's loads of podcasts for that, and there's a few famous faces along there as well.
Joe Marler, the rugby player, his has been on there for a long time. Yeah. So whatever sport floats your boat, there's people that aren't into football. If you're better into other sports, golf, you name it, you'll find it.
There's loads. To be honest with you, they are fantastic with helping podcasts. People like us out who we're growing their audience, and they're giving us a chance, to flourish. They've been good with us with our previous podcasts, and obviously with your still current with the wrestling one.
Yeah.
It's been fantastic, and I think more people who are still sort of struggling should speak to Sports Social and get themselves on there, because they do support you.
Absolutely. A big thank you to Carl Taylor today, our special guest, Liverpool FC Academy sports scientist, and he's also a sports performance consultant for Connahs, Quay, Nomads. It's been an absolute pleasure. We thoroughly enjoyed having Kyle on, and we will see you very, very soon for episode 23 of Football.
Take care.
And now.
Football then and now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us.